Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street. I can't wait to share this episode with you. Hello and welcome back to the Business of Apparel podcast. It's so good to have you with me today. What I want to chat through today is a little bit of the proof in the pudding, if you will, of what I'm out there doing as a consultant through my company, Unmarked Street. When I started Unmarked Street, I really wanted to bring a level of expertise and knowledge to brands who don't have access maybe to the best of the best in the industry. There's something about being able to hire someone as a part-time consultant who can come in and revamp everything that you're doing, give you a level of knowledge that you wouldn't have otherwise had, versus feeling like you need to hire that person full-time at a salary that is, competitive for the level of experience that they have. It's just not accessible to small brands, especially. And so it was really on my heart to help bring that level of experience and those management skills that I'd honed in on as a professional in the apparel industry for 20 years to these small companies so that they do have access to that, right? They need the leverage and they need the opportunity to be able to compete in a market with these billion-dollar brands who are able to hire those types of people on a regular basis with headcount that they fill. So as I started to work with certain brands at Unmarked Street at the end of 2021, I knew that one thing I really needed to understand more for myself was the shoes that they were in. I had always worked at larger companies and companies that weren't startups, right? My husband was actually working at a little startup, and it was really eye-opening to understand how different that was from working at a corporate job, working for a big name brand. And in order to put myself in their shoes, I was able to realize another dream that I had had since I was a little girl, which is to develop, design, and create my own apparel line as a startup. So even though I was just brand new as an entrepreneur starting Unmarked Street in October of 2021, my business plan that I had put on paper included steps to also create my own line, essentially be my own client or be my own consultant so that I had a better understanding of how to serve my clients, what they were going through, what it looks like to start a brand from essentially nothing, so that I had those skills and so that I could speak to it at a better level and so that I could sympathize and empathize with the people that I get to work with now on a regular basis. So today I want to tell you a little bit about my travel apparel line and the journey that I've been on in creating it. And you might find yourself in this story a little bit. It might be a little familiar to you, especially if you've had a small apparel line beginning on your heart, or it's something that you've attempted to do or succeeded in doing, and now you have your own apparel line as well. So as a fashion industry professional, one of the amazing perks, or I see it as a perk, I guess it depends on who you're talking to. One of the perks that I always had in my jobs was the opportunity to travel the world. I've traveled to Istanbul, Turkey, Medellin, Colombia, Jalapa, Mexico, Mexico City, Mexico. I've traveled to Shanghai and the Heshan area of China. I've traveled to Hanoi, Vietnam. I've been in Bali. I've been in Jakarta. I've been in, let's see, where else have I traveled to? I was in Bangkok. I've also been to Italy quite a bit to manufacture apparel. There are probably some other places that I'm forgetting, but the opportunity for me to see the world and travel while working, being with my colleagues, having them as a support system while I travel and explore new places, and also, being able to take advantage of traveling on a company's dime was something that I grew to really love. Now, don't get me wrong, there are limits to how much I could travel. I think it was 2017 or 2018, and I traveled 14 times that year. So, more than once a month, I was on a plane. All of those trips were a week or longer, and I was never home. I rarely saw my husband. When I was home, I was exhausted, I was jet lagged, I was prepping for my next trip. And so I definitely learned that there are limits to how much the body can handle and how much your mind can handle when you travel as much as I was traveling. But through that time as well, I really had to hone in on a travel uniform. So, for those of you who travel a lot like I used to, I haven't traveled quite a bit since the pandemic, and I'm itching to get back out there, but we're not quite at that point yet. In the consulting business, there's kind of a big question mark on how much I can do that now. But for those of you who have traveled as much as I have, you know that you might be asked the day before a trip, okay, you're getting on a plane tomorrow. We have to go see the factory. We have to fix this problem. This product is not where it needs to be. And the in-person interaction that you can get with your factory or your manufacturing team is unparalleled. We can do a lot of work through email and phone calls and Zoom calls and proper communication, but being live in person with people while you rush through prototypes, like one thing that you can do when you go see these factories is to not rush is the wrong word, but to move super quickly through the prototyping process. There's no shipping time, so there's no lag in garments being in a box being aired to you. As soon as it comes off of the sewing machine in the sample room, it goes straight to you in the conference room. You can fit it, make your comments live right there. You don't even have to write comments. You're just speaking them out loud as you're doing the fitting to your factory partners. They go back into the sample room, they make the fixes, and then the next day you see the next proto. It's a rapid development process that you just can't get unless you're traveling. So for those of us who have to be able to move on a dime and get on a plane the very next day, it's super important to understand, what am I packing? What am I wearing? How am I going to be comfortable? And how am I going to get through this? I mean, some of those flights, so especially when I was at Pearl Zumi, we would fly a lot to China, and we would fly through Hong Kong and then take the ferry into the Heshan area where our factory was. And that flight, we would fly through San Francisco, and that flight, that whole travel day is 14 to 16 hours. It's a really long day. And so if you're not comfortable and you don't have the right clothes on, it makes it really, really hard to endure that day, and then to be able to get up the very next morning and perform. You have to be on. You're at work. You have to be able to communicate properly with your factory partners, and you have to be able to quickly understand what it is that you need to do to fix your product. Very rarely do you travel when everything is going great with a product line. So there's an element of urgency that's usually required from you when you do travel, and you need to be on your game. Showing up with jet lag is almost a given. I've heard a lot of tips and tricks from people on how to battle jet lag, and the garments that I'm making now do also have some benefits in helping with jet lag. But I've never experienced a situation where traveling that far that fast completely eliminates jet lag. So you almost have to expect that for the first day or two, and you have to mitigate that issue as much as you possibly can. Sleeping on the plane while you're on it for 14, 12, however many hours is super important. If you don't sleep during that time, you're missing out on a huge chunk of energy that you're going to be able to get that next day and throughout your week. So over time, I started to develop what my travel uniform looked like and felt like. And for me, I run cold. A lot of women, we run cold. So when I'm on an airplane, I really like to layer up my clothes, because you might start cold, but in the middle of your flight, it gets really freaking hot, And if you're not wearing layers and you can't strip off your outer layer and still look and feel good in your under layer, all of a sudden, like, you're burning alive. And I actually even had one instance on a plane where I got so hot, I got dizzy, and the flight attendant had to come over. Like, I almost passed out. It was very embarrassing. But they had to come over and help me with some oxygen. They gave me a can of Coke. They brought me to the back of the plane and just kind of medically watched me for a minute to make sure that I was going to be okay. But in those instances, if I had honed in on my travel uniform and had been able to shed a layer, that would have really helped me. I wouldn't have even been in that situation. So when I wear my travel uniform, it consists of a form-fitting first layer. So I basically wear like a base layer that we would call it in the performance industry or in the cycling industry, form-fitting leggings that are warm but not too warm, and then like a form-fitting t-shirt. So something that can go on and easily fit under other layers. Because this is the most essential layer to me to wear, because if I have to strip down to this layer, I need to still feel confident in it and look good in it. I don't want to feel like me in my tights and form-fitting t-shirt is unflattering in any way. I mean, maybe that's not important to you necessarily, but it was important to me. So when I went to develop my own travel apparel line to market and to sell to others, these were the first two pieces that I felt were going to be the most important to get out first. And if you know a little bit about me and Unmarked Street, my big selling point in having brands come work with me is sustainable growth, which sometimes means slow growth. It means not adding too much too fast until you understand how to be profitable in your current business. And so I only started RTQ Apparel with these two pieces. There's a base layer compression legging, which we call our Watt compression legging. I'll tell you a little bit about Watt fabric here. So Watt, W-A-T-T, is the name of the fabric that comes from Tiana, who is our mill manufacturing partner in Italy. So they make our fabric. Tiana is based out of the Lake Como region of northern Italy. They make beautiful, beautiful performance wovens, and they are serious R&D geniuses. They have this beautiful R&D facility. They are constantly pushing the envelope on what it looks like to have high-tech performance apparel fabrics offered to brands across a variety of industries. They work in triathlon quite a bit, cycling quite a bit, which is how I was introduced to them when I was working at Specialized. And then they also work in technical workwear and in travel fabrics and travel apparel. So a couple of years ago, I think it was end of 2019, I was in their facility in Italy. I was visiting them with Specialized for work, and they presented to us this Watt fabric. And what makes Watt special is the silver yarn grid that they've built into it. So silver yarns, when you build them into a grid the way that Tiana has, essentially create a Faraday cage around your body. And so what is a Faraday cage? A Faraday cage is defined as an enclosure that helps to disperse electromagnetic waves from entering the inside of that cage. Vice versa, it works the other way too, where if you were inside a Faraday cage, you wouldn't be able to like make a phone call. Like you couldn't get a cell phone signal out. It kind of blocks all of those waves from being able to enter inside. So by putting this sort of technology into a fabric that was stretchy, soft, had like a silky drape, felt really good against your skin, was a technology that I'd never seen before. And they were talking about it from a performance apparel space where that Faraday cage helps to block EMF radiation in a way that amplifies your performance as an athlete. So they were looking at it from a cycling perspective with us for sure, encouraging us to put it into some bib shorts or possibly into some jerseys where the silver yarns would help to give our riders a benefit when they were out riding. It would protect their muscles. It would help them with recovery. It would help them with their heart rate. There are so many different advantages that the fabric can give to you because of that silver yarn grid. And at the time we looked at it, but we chose not to move forward. But I made quite a few notes in my notebook that day because we also talked a little bit about how it can benefit you while you travel. And for me, I knew that could be something huge because I was traveling so much at the time. And the ability to have clothes that blocked those EMF radiation waves while I was on the plane. I know the security situation has been debunked. Like there's not a lot of excess radiation going into your body when you go through security, but EMF waves are essentially around us at all times. I mean, there's cell phone waves, radio waves, all of that can get into our body. And if you read certain blogs or subscribe to certain beliefs out there, it can cause potential deteriorating health effects on your body. I am not a scientist, so I am not an expert in how EMF waves affect your body. I am not going to claim to be so. I am learning a ton about it as we've been exploring this apparel line, creating it, and figuring out how to properly market it. But I just want to throw that out there. There are some other brands out there who are doing outstanding testing regarding silver yarn apparel, and we're kind of jumping on that bandwagon with them because we see the benefits of it in travel. This doesn't live in the travel apparel space quite yet, and so we're leveraging that to be able to help people while they fly get better sleep, reduce the effects of jet lag, reduce your heart rate, and then our ability to take this super stretchy fabric and make it compressive on the body also helps with blood flow while you're traveling. So, whenever you travel on a plane, you'll hear a lot of people talk about wearing compression socks to help with blood flow because you do get swollen when you're on an airplane for a really long time, or even for a short amount of time, depending on who you are. And so the compression part of the garments is also a big health benefit if you're able to wear them. So by partnering with Tiana and their Watt fabric technology that they were able to lend to us and offer to us, we developed a compression legging. And when I say we, I do mean me, but I have a small team behind me at Unmarked Street who has been cheering me on with RTQ Apparel. My husband has been super, super supportive of everything that I'm doing with RTQ Apparel. And so when I say we, I guess I mean the collective we of everybody who's just been pushing me forward on this. And so the legging and the t-shirt that we've developed are meant to be almost a second skin. I will tell you, we are going through a wear test right now, and we're playing a little bit with how compressive those garments are and how to list the sizing on the website, because they are not your traditional, super gummy, like stretchy, dreamy, soft legging that you might get from a brand like Lululemon or Worry or Fabletics. Instead, it is meant to like really suck you in and hold you tight and feel like it's a second skin once it's on the body. The problem is getting them on, right? So the first time you pull on these garments, they feel like they're not going to fit you and they feel like they're going to be way too tight. And so there's a little bit of a hurdle that we're getting over there with the wear testers. I've been working with them directly. And so now we're kind of evaluating how to make sure that that translates properly to our customers as we move forward so that everyone feels comfortable in the garments. They don't feel afraid to put them on. Like if you've ever bought a garment that is just a little bit too tight and you go to put it on and you can't, you have to tug really hard to get it over your hips or over your shoulders. You might decide I'm not going to put that on. I'm just going to return it. Like we don't want our customers to get into that space. We want them to pull the full garment on because once they do, then it almost feels like it disappears. Like it does become like a second skin and it compresses you and it holds you in and it makes you feel like you're being hugged almost. That's kind of how maybe we should market it that way. It does feel like a compressive, like really soft, amazing hug on your body. And so that becomes the first layer. And we wanted to put that out into the world because you can wear that under anything, because it is like a second skin. You can wear it under a current travel apparel line that you like to wear, or you can wear it under your, your joggers and your sweatshirt if you prefer to travel that way. We felt like this was the most important part of the line to get out first. And so we just have those two pieces. Both of them come in black with the silver yarn grid that you can see pretty prominently on the fabric. We're going to see how it goes. I am at a place in the company where we're just now getting the marketing out. We're just now getting wear testing. We're just now figuring out what the customers like, what they don't like, if we're experiencing any issues. The production level of the garments and the quality of the garments I'm really happy with. We used a high-end special fabric to make sure, a high-end special thread to make sure that it worked well with the fabric so that everything is super stretchy. During development, we were using a different thread that was popping. So if you've ever put on a really tight garment and you hear pops from your thread, some of those threads are too tight. They don't stretch enough with the fabric. And so they're actually breaking. And sometimes those threads are okay to break depending on how the factory manufactures your piece. So if you experience that in a garment, that's not always a bad thing, just FYI. But we didn't want that on our garments. So we are experiencing it a little bit, and I'm trying to figure out how to battle that right now with the sizing conversation as well. So we're trying to pair those things to come together and make sure that the sizing is appropriate on our website and that we have the correct measurements for your body so that when you go to purchase from RTQ Apparel, it is, once you receive it, it's exactly what we intend it to be for you. So through this experience, it's been a huge journey for me. Like I never expected to be at this place this quickly. I am so lucky to have had the support system that I've had. The brands that I've worked with at Unmarked Street through 2022 have been extremely supportive. And the revenue that we made through Unmarked Street really allowed me to get here so that I could serve them better. Whether they knew it or not, they were funding a better me so that I can be a better me for them. And that's really, really rewarding. I cannot wait to continue on this journey with RTQ Apparel and Unmarked Street, because I continue to learn more and more about what my clients and what my customers need from me. Not only am I now coming from a corporate perspective, being able to tell them how big brands do it, but I can also tell them how I'm doing it as a small brand. And I think the value of that is something that I didn't foresee when I first started both of these endeavors, but it has become the biggest and best result that I could have ever hoped for. If you're interested in learning more about RTQ Apparel, please head over to its website, rtqapparel.com. We are open for pre-sale before April 1st, 2023 with 15% off, and that guarantees you delivery by April of 2023 as well. At that point, we'll open up live to the public. So if you're listening to this years and years from now, hopefully RTQ Apparel is still around and you can still go to the website and check out even more items that we've been able to add over the years. But for right now, at time of recording, we only have the two products. Head over there today. We have a lot more information on the fabrics themselves, how they work, and how it might be able to benefit you when you travel. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, unmarkedstreet.com, where I do weekly trainings through my video channel, a monthly newsletter, and offer so many resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand.